Welcome in Deseret News Rewind Classics. Dusty Litster, Dane, Stewart is always presented by Hyde & Associates and brought to you by the Utah Army National Guard.
That's right, Dusty. And as you well know, right, over 150 different career path options available through the Utah Army National Guard. If you're trying to figure out what that next step in your life is, or maybe you're not quite certain, there's no better place to go and get some job training, on-the-job experience in the Utah Army National Guard. To learn more, visit nationalguard.com.
And as always, we talk about Hyde & Associates, a trusted partner of ours and someone you can trust as well. If you take care of your family, they're there to help you. If you got questions about just any legal issues that you might have, a free consultation through Hyde & Associates, go to www.utah.law and set up a free consultation. Let them know Deseret News Rewind sent you. They're going to get you taken care of and help take care of your family. We want to thank our terrific sponsors for helping us through this time and through these games on Deseret News Rewind Classics. We've got an outstanding one, Lone Peak PG. We'll set it up. So let's get going. Deseret News Rewind Classics. Dan, when we look at this game, first of all, there's stars in this game. There are guys that you know. I mean, this is coming off the year after the national championship game, so Mika and Emery are gone from Lone Peak and Talon Shumway as well. But they came into this game having won 36 straight games. 36 straight games in the state of Utah. They got TJ Haas and some sophomore that's still playing some hoops as well, in one Frank Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, this was really Lone Peak, Dusty. And look, I mean, you know, you were kind of the official broadcast partner of the Lone Peak Knights without having, any contractual agreement there. But I mean, you talk about them really being at their height. I mean, coming off that national championship year, you obviously talked about, Haas and Jackson, and you'll see, I mean, Haas is a senior. Look, this kid had no limits. And Dusty, you make some great points in the broadcast. We'll save that for some of the clips. But, I mean, this was Lone Peak. And in my mind, you talk about the streak they had been on, the run they had been on against in-state competition. I mean, I don't really know that I thought this was going to be that game. But, hey, if we're showing it here on the Classics, then you know it was a doozy, and it certainly was. And this was one of those where, to me, it kind of felt like PG finally able to maybe take that next step for them on a team that had a lot of great talent, right? Maybe didn't translate into a lot of D1 like that Lone Peak lineup did, but a lot of great players for PG that had to play together, play maybe the perfect game for them all year long against the number one team in the state.
The thing about this game, too, is that Coach Randy McAllister had never beaten Lone Peak coming into this game. And that's back when, I mean, you think when this really heated up, and we talked about this with Quincy Lewis, it was the Tyler Haas era for Lone Peak, which was also known as the CJ Wilcox era of Pleasant Grove, where Coach McAllister was a new coach there. Wilcox is there, and there was some just amazing battles with TJ Haas, but they couldn't win those games. And not only that, they couldn't win the playoffs. CJ Wilcox, a four-year starter, didn't win the playoffs. And this team for PG, not only did it break through in winning this game, we'll talk about later what it meant for Coach McAllister and his program in general in busting down walls and getting to areas they hadn't been in. But you think of the three stars for PG that year, it is Matt Conway, who has a huge game in this one, Mark Sheffield, and then the dynamic, and it was at the time bigger point guard, which wasn't really big at the time, in Riley Court, who did go D1. Riley Court is one of the guys that went to Division I, went and played at Weber State. And that three-headed monster for them was what kind of broke through for this team.
Yeah, Diedrichson was huge in this game as well. He had a really fantastic game this night for Pleasant Grove. But Dusty, you talk about breaking down walls. Wasn't this the last year of the old gym, or did they have another one in this old building? For
might have one more, but you might be right. I mean, now the years keep leaping in my head of where that went, but I think they had one more in that old gym.
That being said, this is a classic for a lot of reasons, and part of that is the building. I mean, you don't get these old gyms very often anymore. And I mean, you were there. You can speak to the atmosphere, but you can get a sense as we go through this game, the buildup of the energy in that building as PG is able to hang around.
Well, let's bring in the head coach of the Pleasant Grove boys basketball team, Coach Randy McAllister. And Coach, when you think back on this game, because you had so many good battles, and we talked about, my first memories for you there was the CJ Wilcox, Tyler Haas era. But when you came into this game, Lone Peak had won 36 straight within the state. I don't know, I say that you hadn't beat them yet. But what was your thoughts coming into this one?
Just going back, there really wasn't as much. I don't have as many memories about thinking about Lone Peak and playing Lone Peak and that being as big a deal as it was maybe in other years because I thought we had such a good team that year. We were having a phenomenal season as well that year and had the best team that we had since I had been there. I'd had some good players. I mean, when we had the Wilcoxes, and that was a really good group. But I think as far as having the best team up to that point, this was the year, a 2014 team. They just played together better than any team I'd ever coached and had some players, that could be impact players. So we were confident. We liked our team. We didn't play well against them at their place earlier that season. So we knew we could compete better than we had. And we liked our chances at home to compete with them. They had 3 really good players. We had two dominant players with just a great group of role players. I thought one of the differences between our teams that year was our role players were better than theirs. And that was a big part of the success of that game.
Yeah, let's talk about this game. I mean, the first quarter, just like any Lone Peak game, you think TJ Haas asserts himself early, but PG on the other end, this is a different time. They like to run, they still do, and we think it's kind of weird. Yeah, it's kind of a reminder that Matt Coleman was the only reason why Coach McAllister played that post game. Matt Conway was that post guy. He was the mismatch on the floor early in this game.
The starting 5 for Pleasant Grove, backdoor Conway, and one! We've said that a lot this year. Matt Conway.
He was, Dusty, and when I was, going through the highlights of this game again, to me, that's something that stood out really early on was just the impact or the advantage that PG had in the blocks. You talk about that 2013 and Mika moving on. Lone Peak really didn't have that force in the paint anymore. And when we go through this, you'll see a lot of the perimeter shots, a lot of their guards having to drive, but they didn't really have that centerpiece. And all of a sudden that opens things up for Conway, who had a monster night, as you had previously mentioned.
Yeah, and then as we go through the first quarter, it was 18-18. The second quarter, this game looked like a lot of the Lone Peak PG games because Lone Peak had already beaten PG early in the year by double digits. And also that second quarter, again, Haas, and then a name that we always forget, and I tend to do as well, is Zach Frampton. Zach Frampton, especially in the state tournament, was absolutely huge for Lone Peak. And then another fun one, Jansen Alpin. It's fun to see some of these names that you kind of forget over time. But that second quarter, those guys mixed a little from Frank Jackson really made some inroads for Lone Peak, giving them a 6-point advantage going into half.
Haas walks it in the front court. Haas, pirouette in the lane. Corrects his shot and gets the and one. What a take and finish by TJ Haas.
Coach, you guys, had a good start in this game, tied up after the first. You trailed at halftime. Do you remember what was the message in that locker room at the break? You guys outscored them by 12 in the second half. What was it that kind of turned the tide for you guys?
I thought we played a little too careful, a little too maybe tentative in the first half. We talked a little bit about loosening up a little bit and remembering that you're at home. You're in front of your home crowd. You guys are good enough to beat this team. You're having a great season. This was a very poised group. They were all seniors except for Riley, who was a junior that year, but he played like a senior. So it was one of the most poised teams, that you could expect to have on the court. And I just thought they didn't play that way the first half. They just played like they didn't want, you got that famous 10-0 run that Lone Peak always puts on every team a couple times during a game, and it felt like we were just trying to avoid that 10-0 run against us instead of just playing to put them down 10-0, So we were I think I remember a little bit about talking about loosening up, starting to get back to playing our pace in the second half, picking up our defense a little bit. I remember I just watched the game the other day because it's been a while, and we started that second half with Sheffield jumping in the lane and getting a steal, and that kind of set the tone for a little bit more aggressive second half.
And now the second half. That is this game. This game is where it gets really, really interesting.
Yeah, it is. Lone Peak, they shot really well in that second quarter, build that lead, Dusty, but it almost feels like in the second half, Lone Peak hit some threes, but that's when PG really started to recognize, this got to 8, 9, I think was the deficit. And PG Ellison's like, hey, we better start hitting some shots. Was it 11? Okay. we better start hitting some outside shots if we want a chance to get back in this one. And they started. And boy, once it started, it felt like it kept raining in that second half for the Vikings.
Court for three. He matches the three from open and brings us back to an 8-point game, 43-35.
Well, when you think about this game, so it was Lone Peak up 10, 40-30. Then they go up 43-32. Riley Court hits a three. Conway gets a +1 to pull it to 46-40. Well, TJ Haas, which you'll notice if you look at this game, anytime PG hits a shot or makes a bucket, Haas just comes down and it shoots a transition three.
Haas from Jimmer range. TJ Haas. Timeout, Coach Lewis.
And he hits another one, go up 49-40. And then Matt Conway came right back.
Pincock lobs to Conway. Frampton was there. Blocked by Curtis. Back up and one. Curtis with the block. Alpin with the foul. That's number 4 on Alpin. And the bump and bucket to Conway.
PG, I think that was the interesting thing about this game. I remember being there thinking, they're not just going away from what they do. It's like Lone Peak used to bait you into trying to shoot threes. It's like the Golden State Warriors. Like, we're going to bait you to shoot threes to keep pace. And PG said, no, we're going to go right back inside to Conway. Another +1 for Conway. Gets it to 49-45. And then my favorite highlight of the third quarter, I know we're going to talk a lot of PG. Coach McAllister's going to be here. We're going to talk a lot of PG. It is a lob, TJ Haas to the sophomore, Franklin Jackson. That was, I've ever been there, like, oh, mercy. This was awesome.
Here's Haas. Lob to Jackson, and Jackson throws it down. What a play. Jackson had the alley-oop last week. And he gets one here, and then still a Frampton, and then he get a foul.
You know, Dusty, that's one of those plays where it's like, he's going to be good. Right? Literally leaps off the floor right out at you. And it's like, oh my goodness, that young man right there. And, you know, I wasn't there that night. Again, as I'm going through these heads, like, oh my goodness. And yeah, Frank Jackson, what a way to announce your presence there in the third quarter. But you're right. I mean, you talk about PG starting to build back in this. Don't forget about Diedrichson too. He hit some big threes in that third quarter to help, you know, PG get back in it. I think that one of his threes brought it to one possession or tied it. But, I mean, I think, if I recall correctly, but Diedrichson had some huge shots late in that third quarter to help PG come back.
Now De Hoyos. Back out, Diedrichson for three. And Diedrichson second on the quarter. Nate Diedrichson with 2 big threes.
Yeah, he hits 2 threes at the end. And then start of the fourth quarter, you got to have somebody new step up, right? And Mark Sheffield opens up the fourth quarter with a steal and layup to tie it, or probably to give a lead, and then hits a 3.
Here's Conway out to Sheffield, an open 3. Sheffield opens the fourth quarter with 5 points, and it's now Pleasant Grove 60-57.
And right then it was like, oh boy, like this could really happen. And you know, it was one of those things. I remember being there like, PG got the lead. Oh, good grief, you know, and you saw where this was going.
I think he also had a rebound and a putback off of a missed 3. I could have been wrong on that, but I thought that it was Sheffield as well. Boy, what a huge lift he was. And we talked about that rebounding situation. Dusty, how about this? I mean, according to the box score, PG out-rebounded him 37-12. And to me, that's one of the big differences in this ball game, right? If you're going to force teams to shoot the 3 ball, as Lone Peak, you mentioned, did a lot that year, if you're going to miss shots, you got to get clears. And PG had opportunities for second chance opportunities, putbacks, and that really helped them, particularly in this fourth quarter.
So PG goes up 5, and then, you know, we talked about TJ Haas a lot, and what you forget about is the guy was a threat on the defensive end of the floor too. Coach Lewis, anytime you got them into trouble, and Quincy's immediate thing was, we're going to pressure you. We're going to force you to win a game, and they go to a trap. Haas gets a steal.
Haas to the rim and throws it down. What a 5 points for Haas.
Haas gets another steal, gets inside, kicks it to the corner, and boom, all of a sudden we're nearly tied up. It was 69-62, 5-point swing, and things change.
You know, it's one of the real incredible things about Haas, right? We got to see Tyler. We got to see TJ. It felt like TJ had those things in him where he could just ignite a spurt. And in a span of 30 seconds, you've got multiple possessions that Lone Peak usually was capitalizing on. He did so here to help the Knights get back in this one, stay within it with Pleasant Grove. And boy, what a great effort in this ball game from TJ Haas, who I think, well, he led Lone Peak in scoring. Was he the highest scoring in the game or just for Lone Peak?
Well, no, he had 23. Matt Conway had 24.
Okay. All right.
And, the other interesting part of this game, too, is, when they had these shots that pulled Lone Peak within a point, or probably 2 points within a score, it was a young man that had 4 points on the night. His only 3 of the game gave PG a lead they didn't relinquish, and that was Forrest Pincock.
Corner to De Hoyos. De Hoyos outside. Pincock for 3. Forrest Pincock with the big 3 and push it back to 5. Hawes. No, rebound is Sheffield.
Forrest Pincock has 4 points and hits 1 3-pointer, and it happens to be the biggest 3-pointer because it gives them PG a lead in the fourth that they never relinquished. Jacks it to 3 late, but it just changed so much. There's so many different guys stepped up for Coach McAllister.
I was thinking that Pincock 3 was the one that really created that final separation to make it a 2 or 3 possession game where you knew after that it was just going to become a free throw battle. And really for Lone Peak, it was kind of out of their hands. They were going to have to get some fortunate misses from 15 feet. And what a key 3 for Pincock, able to hit that one. And man, that was the shot for PG where it's like, oh, all right, this is our night on Valentine's Day.
The funny thing about this game, and it's kind of what you see, I hate harkening back to The Last Dance so much, and every show I'm listening to, we are, and only because we're all watching it for sports fans, because what else we got at the moment? A couple weeks, some things will change. But I remember being there, and there was a last inbound. PG gets the inbound with the full court pressure. They get the foul, whatever. And then as Lone Peak had to heave the ball midcourt, it's like, is this game really going to end? Is PG really going to beat Lone Peak? Like, is this really happening right now?
And the second. They're going to try to get into Jackson. Tip by Court, taken by De Hoyos. 36 games comes to an end tonight in Pleasant Grove. What a game between Pleasant Grove and Lone Peak.
Coach, what has it been like? This has become one of the best rivalries in the state. What has it been like to be able to coach in this rivalry and to have so many competitive games? Some have had controversial endings. Some have, just been classics. What has it been like to coach in this rivalry?
Oh, it's just fantastic. You just, you don't have that every year or every place you coach. I've coached in California where, there's 15 people in the stands and you're winning by 30, you're losing by 30. But to have an area in the state of Utah where basketball is so popular and the kids, the student bodies are so into it and the communities are so into it. And, we were fortunate to have a good run with some good players there for a while, but unfortunately we were in the same league with a team that had one of the most unbelievable runs and unbelievable talent, So the timing was just a little off for PG. If Lone Peak hadn't had that phenomenal run, we would have been on the top 1 or 2 teams in the state. So we kind of played second fiddle during that time, but that you can't take the reality of the fact that we were a really, really good basketball team for several years and competed against one of the best, if not in the state, in the country there for a while. So I don't know. It's great for the kids to do that. We tried to remind them every day that don't take this for granted. Prepare as well as you can, because you're going to be playing against a packed house on Friday night against a great team with a great atmosphere, and you're going to remember these games, in 30 years when you're talking to your kids and your grandkids. So it just makes it that much more exciting and that much funner to be part of it.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate your time and taking a little trip down memory lane with us. Always one of our favorites. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for all you guys do. You guys, no one would be talking about high school sports if it wasn't for you two guys. So we appreciate all you guys do.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. Well, let's go through the categories. Again, the final score in this one was 78-72. Pleasant Grove knocking off Lone Peak. And let's go Unsung Hero. Unsung Hero, we're going to make this brought to you by the Utah Army National Guard.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Sheffield, Dusty. Look, I wasn't there, and I don't remember, as much about these teams as you do. But to me, Sheffield, I thought he was huge. The start he had in that fourth quarter really felt like that ignited and gave PG some confidence to get the kind of, the wheels rolling there. I'm going to go with Sheffield as my pick.
Yeah, I can see why. I mean, he had the big moments. I think it's Nate Diedrichson. I mean, the threes he hit in that third quarter kind of paced things. Was TJ Haas seemed like he was going to get into a rhythm. I thought it was a good one. How about the forgotten play?
Well, I mean, for me, we talked about this, but I'm still going to go with it a little bit. I'm going to go with that sequence for TJ Haas, able to hit the three and then generate the steal on the trap. I thought that was really, really big for Lone Peak in this game. I know it didn't go their way, but to me, that's the play that I had kind of forgot about. And yet it felt like that was really Lone Peak hanging in this and giving them an opportunity where you thought, oh, yeah, they'll come back. They'll find a way to work this game out.
Yeah, and I hate all this stuff is Lone Peak, but this kind of showed this game. All the flash plays were Lone Peaks. It was the alley-oop to Frank Jackson. Oh, my gosh. I mean, sophomore Frank Jackson. I keep reiterating that. He had transferred at that point from Lehigh. Funny enough, he could have played for Quincy at Lehigh if things had changed a little bit different. Just joking. I'll give you a little time on that. But, but Frank Jackson, that alley-oop, I was unreal. And you could hear my voice just absolutely stunned about that one. And let's go to the quit game and restart moment for Lone Peak.
You know what, Dusty? I'm going to go a little crazy on you here. I don't think there is one. And here's the reason why. You want to know how the season ended? With a 20-point state championship game win over these very same Vikings. Hey, look, you might have gotten us in the regular season. We got the ring.
But the video belongs to PG. I'm going to go the Forrest Pincock 3. Forrest Pincock gets that 3. He's like, okay, this is insane. Nobody's missing out. This guy's hitting the 3. I'm starting over. There's no way I'm risking losing the game. But you're probably right. But still, if we ask Quincy Lewis, he'd be like, I don't think I really had one. I thought we were going to win that game even when we were 0.1 seconds left. So
yeah.
MVP. I think we're going to be consensus on this one.
Oh boy, for me, I'm going to go with Conway. I thought he was a differentiator for Pleasant Grove, led them in scoring, led the game in scoring. I thought his presence inside, both scoring, but then also on the glass, I thought was key. I'm going to go with Conway.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I love to go TJ Haas. I mean, he hit 5 threes. He had 5 assists in this game. And sometimes you get in that game. It's like, but even my player of the game in the game was Matt Conway. I thought he was the difference. He was the mismatch on the floor that Lone Peak didn't have an answer for. And he had that, just an absolutely spectacular game. But your final thoughts, Dane, as we close out another classics here.
This was such a fun game. We mentioned that, Dusty, you were so familiar with both these two teams and you could sense the energy in that building. And, you did a great job on the call to help that carry through for those who were able to listen to it. We talk about those moments where streaks always come to an end, and what a great night for Pleasant Grove. I remember hearing this story. I wasn't there, but Coach McAllister, just the relief that he had of finally able to get over that hump. Now, I know there's a couple of other mountains that he's still trying to get over. He will. He's one of the best coaches in the state. But on this night, boy, what a great night for Pleasant Grove, finally able to defeat their rival, make it to a state championship game. They did a lot of things they hadn't done a long time there at Pleasant Grove. And, great to see that program take that next step. And, of course, for Coach McAllister, still more steps to come.
Yeah, it's interesting because being there, and we talk about moments. It's Coach Barnes after they lost the state championship to Springville, and we talk about that moment with him. There's other coaches we have these really double moments. I remember when that game ended, Vince and I was like, I got to go talk to him. Because at this point, I don't wrapped up my game. I just kind of left. I was like, I got to go talk to McAllister. I just need to go chat with him. And that old gym, you had to go down some stairs to get down to the locker room, to the office. And I remember just getting there, and Coach McAllister was still standing there just stunned. And I said, Coach, congratulations, gave him a hug and just seeing the relief on his face. Some people say, yeah, it's a regular season game. For him, it was climbing that mountain. It's finally saying, you know what? I can lead a team to beat Lone Peak, beat Quincy Lewis, and beat all these great players that they had in this amazing run. At this point, it had been 10 years. You think Jackson Emery to this year at this point was 10 years. Just unreal of what that meant, where he couldn't get that win, and he finally does, and you just see it on his face. And I'll never forget it. It's what brought us closer, and it's why he's one of the guys we could text to get information from. And just that moment, I'll never forget that. It was one of those ones that, it's why we're doing these, because I can remember that. I don't have to write it out or remember in the middle of the game, but we do that forgotten play. Oh, yeah, I forgot that happened, or I forgot this guy. I'll never forget that. But well, we want to thank Coach McAllister for coming on with us. And again, if you got a game, as long as we've got it in our archives, we'll pull it out. We'll talk about it. We got a couple of really good ones as well. Go check out the other ones. We're doing football, basketball, all the games that we've covered over the years. Dane, Stewart, and myself, and Vince Francis. So many good ones. But Dane, any final thoughts before we sign on this one?
No, just submit your ideas. We love doing these. It's fun for us to be able to look back, down memory lane, but then also give you a little insider perspective, what coaches, players were thinking. It's been a fun new thing we've been able to bring. And if you've got programs or games on your mind, let us know, and we'll do our best to track them down.
Absolutely. Well, again, I want to thank Coach McAllister for jumping on with us and reliving what an amazing night this was. But for Vince Francis and Dane Stewart, I'm Dusty Litster. Thanks for joining us and watching Deseret News Rewind Classics on Deseret.com.